Right.
So, one of the key ways that we differentiate, obviously with SM, you have to be mute in at least one setting. However, it could also be an individual with social communication challenges where they may not be completely mute, especially as they're older teens and adults. What we see is that younger children present with more of an overt mutism presentation. In other words, what I'm saying is it's very obvious. They don't talk to peers, or they talk to one or two. They don't talk to teachers. They don't talk in restaurants. Whatever that may be, it's very obvious. So that diagnosis of SM can be made way before autism because the mutism almost masks a lot. They're not speaking, so you think it's anxiety. That's why they're not engaging and interacting with peers. But as they get older and they get to be teens, very often they do speak. They're just not initiative, elaborative, expressive. And these are individuals with SM with or without, let's say, autism. So it gets confusing because, wait, they're not completely mute. They can answer, how are you? Quietly, maybe good, but they're not initiative. They're not expressive. They're not elaborate. They lack conversation starters. And this is where what we see is that social puzzle, that use of language, figuring out the social puzzle, the internal desire to have a friend, having back and forth reciprocal connections. Listen, I have many individuals I work with that are completely mute in school, let's say, but they have friendships. Their eye contact, their body language, the way they laugh appropriately, they can be mute, but their friendships are there. I mean, they might have 10 great friends, but they're not communicating verbally. So we can't say it's because they're mute. So would you say that the use of language is the difficulty of figuring it out? Seeing like somebody that, let's say you want to start a conversation. So it's not the social anxiety piece, but more of the anxiety of knowing what to say, how to say it. Whereas if their anxiety is low, they still can't do it well.
I feel like it's a combo of both because sometimes a lot of autistic people are very concrete thinkers
Yeah,
and language can be very abstract
very.
and you're using facial expressions and then the body language and then they have to figure out, well, are you being serious? What are you doing? Because my son especially, it was when growing up, he was very flat. And so when he said it, people were like, is he being a jerk? And I was like, no, that's just how he just presents. Like, he's just going to say it. And then I had to teach him how the nuances of your tone. You have got to soften your tone. And he goes, I don't understand what that means.
Right,
What do you mean?
right.
And then that is a whole new aspect of language when they are solid, concrete thinkers. And some people who are autistic understand some abstract thought and are like, okay. But then to read an entire room of people with language and body language, that can be exhausting for that piece. And you're like focused on one person, language, pattern, it's a lot. Even my sister, who figured out she was autistic and ADHD, went to a swinger's wedding and read the room completely wrong. And she was like, did I read the room wrong? I was like, you read the room totally wrong.
Right. It's almost understanding how to converse and how to engage. And I'd say that if we were to outline with SM and not autism, it's very anxiety based. So they may have a speech and language issue. They may have sensory challenges. They may have overwhelming social anxiety. They may have like ADHD or processing difficulties to be able to have a give and take and back forth. Of course, the largest percentage of individuals with a social anxiety presentation, but they can't speak in certain settings due to anxiety and fear because of these challenges that prevent them. But with autism, the communication differences are there, but they may not initiate or understand how to converse, like you were just saying. And this can be very frustrating to caregivers and also partners because they're like, why did you say that? Like, or why did you react that way? You seem disinterested, or you said something like kind of off topic that didn't relate. And it's these types of things that we hear. The other big difference I see is that most individuals, and I would say this is a huge, huge kind of like thing to look at in layman terms, is that individuals with SM and not autism they really want to connect badly. And what we see, they want to play, they want to engage, but they will shut down with their communication. But wouldn't you say that one of the things you see a lot in the autism population is they sometimes may want to on the surface, but they almost appear disinterested or unsure of how to connect, and that causes their anxiety.
Yeah, because they don't understand the word connection.
Right.
And
Can you talk a
even to
little
this,
bit more about that? Because this is an overwhelming presentation, so that when I'm working with a client, April, and I'm doing this now, and there are a lot of teens that I work with and young adults, they just don't seem to want to. And I think it's that social puzzle is so stressful, as well as they just don't have the desire.
I know this is aging us, like back in our day, with the social media and everything coming at them, they don't have the need to really have to go face to face. They can go online and be who they want to be, take all that down and connect that way. And that's so much easier than having to go out in public, look at this person they don't know, not know how to read this person, if they're going to accept this person, if they're going to accept me for who I am, figure out what they actually mean, the connection. Do I have anything in common with this person I don't know? It's a whole rigmarole. They're already exhausted because they've gone through a whole
Yeah.
conversation in their head why this person's not going to like me, and should I even engage with this person before they've even had the conversation with the person. They're already tired. They're like, I don't even want to connect with the
Yeah,
person.
they're cognitive overload. They can't, it's almost like they just like, I'm done before they got started because it's so stressful and not natural. And I think